Stugotz just muttered into the microphone because he's getting himself ready for playoff football, and he's sharpening his takes. He's doing the calisthenics and the reps. I heard him mutter to himself on Wednesday, just staring at his computer, and it was a funny thing to hear him mutter because I don't know whether he knew I could hear him because it was so under his breath. He's like, a lot of pressure on Dallas.
I'm not certain there's a quarterback-coach combination that has more pressure headed into the playoffs than Dak Prescott and Mike McCarthy. I mean, McCarthy is a home win for Tom Brady away from losing everything. That will be it for Mike McCarthy. He'll never be a head coach again in the NFL. I mean, that's a lot of pressure. They have a ton of pressure. I have my top 5 head coach quarterback combinations in terms of who has the most pressure headed into the playoffs.
All right, hold on to that for just a second. But I do want Andrew to explain to me with some expertise what has happened to Dak Prescott this year and what was that last game that the Dallas Cowboys played before heading into a situation that even though Tom Brady's Bucs stink, he does not stink.
Yeah, no, he does not. And that's, if you're asked, I'm going to pick the Buccaneers in that game because I'm going to rest with Tom Brady always in the playoffs until proven otherwise. Dak Prescott, I'm less surprised by when I see those games from Dak because he's, to me, in that tier of quarterback where you're going to have that in those moments. And like I've never kind of viewed Dak as like this solidified top 5 quarterback. I think you have moments where he pokes his head in there, but from every game you get one of those, man, this guy is top 5. You're going to get one that he looks like he's bottom 15.
But he's got as many interceptions as Davis Mills, and he missed a good amount of time. Like what you can't do at that position anymore, at least in part because Aaron Rodgers reinvented it, is you can't turn the ball over at that rate. It's one of the few ways you will lose to Tampa Bay. Dallas is considerably better than Tampa Bay.
I'm not arguing that. But at the same time, I for Dak Prescott in his game, like he is a risk taker in that way. He's not Aaron Rodgers. And that's why when you talk about the top tier quarterbacks, like, yes, that is the standard, but that's not a standard that most quarterbacks can reach, in my opinion. And I don't think Dak Prescott is one of those guys. So if he's taking that many chances, yes, that's going to happen because he's going to get overly confident and he's going to be telegraphing some things. If you look at even some of those interceptions, to me, those weren't throws you make. Like, even if you look at the posture and the way that the play calling is happening, you're basically giving a lot of those DBs answers to the test. And specifically the out route that I think he threw to CeeDee Lamb, like, that was one for me that was like, oh, man, come on, you gotta know that's coming. But it doesn't surprise me that that's where Dak Prescott is with it.
Dak Prescott is fine, and that's fine. But he's also going to get paid $40 million. And in the eyes of many talking heads and gas bags and even Cowboys fans that are emotional, they think Cooper Rush is just fine. And so it's hard to equate that salary, that cap number, with the performance. You can certainly win a Super Bowl with Dak Prescott.
Of course.
But he's just never going to be top tier good.
And it's never going to be completely sustainable to have everything that they've surrounded Dak Prescott with. One of the best offensive lines in football for 4 or 5 years now. 2 incredible running backs. CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper before him. Like, he's always had a lot to play with.
I want to talk about the other quarterback in that matchup, though, for a little bit, Tom Brady, because not a great season for Tom Brady's standards, but then you look at the passing numbers and a pretty good season. I think the ultimate testament to what he was able to do this year is, if they had any other quarterback, do you think that's a playoff team? Kind of felt like he drug them across the line, especially with those late game comebacks. But if you see these montages of his throws in games, they're all either right behind the line of scrimmage for the most part, or 3 yards above the line of scrimmage. And that's not a game. What marveled me the most about, outside of his age and the fact that he's still doing this, was his ability to still stretch the field at his age. Is that his offensive line? Because he's historically been a quarterback that likes to get the ball out quick. Mm-hmm. And all that's being afforded to him with a pass pro right now is those short dump-offs.
Yeah, I would say that's a testament to his offensive line, but that's like, you need that when you have Tom Brady. Like, some things just come along with the territory. Everything you said is spot on. I would say, even by Tom Brady standards, I know, like you said, he didn't quite reach the standard that we're typically used to seeing him reach, but at the same time, I honestly, and this is not a X and O's take, he is going through the hardest thing he's gone through in his personal life. And as a player, I always talk about, I don't think people realize how much that correlates to your on-field performance and how hard it is to compartmentalize when you're going through real things and trying to play at a top level. So even when you're seeing Tom Brady tail off a little bit, I don't attribute that to him being 45. I attribute that to him going through 45-year-old man things while trying to play in the NFL, which we haven't seen before. And so for him, I don't know if he retires, and I know that's not the conversation, but what I'm saying is the more time that you've had through the season, you've seen him progressively start to get back, and I think that's the scariest thing for the Cowboys next week because I feel like he's going to be locked into this playoffs.
He's dealing with, you're right, the first half of the season, and still, I guess, the whole season, dealing with real-life stuff. But, Mike, he's still through. He was third in the NFL in yardage. He had nearly 4,700 yards. I love that he set the bar so high for himself, that 4,700 yards, 25 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, while going through a divorce at the age of 46 or 7 is kind of a down season for Brady.
I really loved Hog's point about we've never seen someone go through the normal mid-40s shit before at that position.
No one's been there.
Like, it's hard enough when you're not playing the most important position in all of sports.
I felt for him, man. I'm like, I remember getting in arguments with my girlfriend on a Saturday night and having to go play a Sunday game and, like, trying to be like, oh, man, I can't. Just focus, man. You have a job to do. And, like, to go through what he's going through is tough. But even with those numbers, though, and I know those are great numbers for anybody else except Tom Brady at 45 years old.
Right.
That doesn't quite tell the whole story of the Tom Brady season at the same time.
Well, you just mentioned that it's the hardest personal season of his life. I'd argue it's the hardest professional season of his life, too, just because he's 45 and that team stinks. And it has required him to be great because, again, that team stinks. His teams don't stink. You mentioned the idea of throwing balls at the line of scrimmage. When they were down against Carolina and he's dropping back and hurling the ball perfectly to Mike Evans, I found myself feeling bad for Henderson. I don't know who Henderson is. He's a defensive back for Carolina, but he was seeing that ball in flight and saying, God damn it. That's Tom Brady, and at 45, he can still do that. And I gave Mike Evans a step because I thought that Brady's going to do what he's doing all game. 3 yards, slant. But this time he decided to just uncork it, and I end up feeling bad for a Carolina defensive back named Henderson.
The wildest part of this season is, I see signs of Tom Brady aging, but the signs are that his skill position guys are aging. And that's really kind of what's holding him back. Mike Evans just seems to have dropped off a half of step. He still gets separation, but the consistency with the hands isn't there. I think, though, that it's at the heart of it, it's that O-line. If you see their O-line when they won the Super Bowl compared to where it was at many times this season,
oh my God, he'd play forever. If he
door.
played for the Eagles, he'd play forever.
No question. If you give Tom Brady time, it doesn't matter how old he is, he will pick you apart.
He'll still play forever. I mean,
right. Either way,
yes.
Whether I put him on the Eagles or not, or whether I surround him with 10 of J.J. Watt's Eagles, he's going to end up playing forever.
I don't want to fall into the Stugotz trick of Greg Popovich is doing his greatest coaching job ever. But when you consider,
it's crazy.
He is establishing a new standard with every season that he plays. And I know he's just years removed from doing it with a new team away from Belichick. I'm not going to have the prisoner of the moment take saying that this is as impressed as I've ever been with Tom Brady. He had the largest comeback in Super Bowl history. But goddamn it, I'm really impressed with what Tom Brady's doing.
What you have to do is, when somebody owns a team record for something and is still on the team and continues to add to his own team record, that's what you have to do with Brady. Your respect has to keep growing every year. You're obligated to get more impressed by the most impressed you've ever been. But you guys said something. I don't think it's right.
Tom Brady is already third on the all-time Bucs passing list.
It's amazing.
Yeah. What's amazing is Jameis Winston is first.
Well, this is what I wanted to bring up because you guys said you can win a Super Bowl with Dak Prescott. And certainly most people would agree with that. But the thing that I would ask you is, when that team went from the interception rate that Dak Prescott has this year, Jameis Winston, 30 interceptions, to Tom Brady, that's what changed around that team. You can't win a Super Bowl with a quarterback who turns the ball over in the postseason. It's the one thing you can't have at that position. And he's been Davis Mills. He's been worst in the league. How many games did Dak Prescott miss? Didn't he miss almost half the season? Did he miss like 5 or 6 games?
I think like in the neighborhood of 6.
He
is turning the ball over.
Can you win the Super Bowl? Because that's just 15 interceptions.
the only way
I don't know how many fumbles he has.
I mean, when I say you can win a Super Bowl with Dak Prescott, it's if he figures out to stop turning the ball over, and I think he can do that. But this season sample would kind of buck against that notion. Dan.
He started 12 games this year, so he's missed 5, and he's thrown 15 interceptions in those 12 starts.
Yeah,
That's unsustainable.
that's
for
not
a
Jameis
playoff
Winston
run.
level though. That's like a
not quite, but
But
you can't turn the ball
Jameis
over.
You can't
Winston
turn the
doesn't
ball
start
over.
anymore because he throws too many interceptions. Like New Orleans has had ample opportunity to throw him in there, and they won't because he throws too many interceptions.
You're right. You cannot win the Super Bowl if you turn the ball over in the postseason. I'm just not prepared to call Dak Prescott a turnover machine. He's had a tough year, for sure.
You just picked the Bucs.
I did, but that's because of Tom Brady, not because of Dak Prescott.
Smart guy.
I don't pick against Tom Brady in the playoffs.
So despite
Exactly.
all the time that he's missed this season, Dak Prescott has had a career worst 15 interceptions,
Which is most in the league.
his next highest is 2017 when he played all 16 games and he had 13. Is this a post-injury Dak Prescott? Is this a different coach, or is this just who he is now?
I did not recognize the team I watched play against the Eagles. I did not recognize them against the Washington Commanders.